The Mecklenburg County election debates are a service of WTVI, Mecklenburg County, and the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. The views and opinions expressed in these debates are those of the candidates and do not necessarily represent the views of WTVI, its management, Mecklenburg County, or the League of Women Voters.
PBS Charlotte and the League of Women Voters present Election Debate 2016.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with PBS Charlotte. Welcome to the North Carolina State Senate District 40 primary debate sponsored by PBS Charlotte and the League of Women Voters Charlotte-Mecklenburg. In the next 20 minutes, we'll talk with the two Democratic candidates running in the North Carolina State Senate District 40 race. The questions were provided by the League of Women Voters Charlotte-Mecklenburg. The candidates have not heard the questions in advance. I will call on the candidates in random order to answer the questions, and they will have either 30 minutes or a minute to answer each question. I'll let the candidates know in advance how long to respond. If you would like to challenge your opponent, please raise your yellow challenge card. You'll have 30 seconds to respond. Each candidate has 3 challenges during this debate. There are no opening statements, but each candidate will have the opportunity to make a 30-second closing statement. And now, let's meet the Democratic candidates for North Carolina State Senate District 40. The candidates are Nasif Majid and Joyce Waddell. Glad to have you both with us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, our first question, we will begin with what makes you better qualified than your opponent to represent Senate District 40? Nasif Majid, we begin with you.
Well, I have a long record of service in this community, 8 years on Charlotte City Council, businessman, a community leader, and my record speaks well for me. I've actually, in my last 2 terms in term in office, I injected over $52 million in the community. Serving on the Planning Commission, the Housing Authority, I've been a very effective leader, and we need to take that leadership to Raleigh.
All right, thank you, Mr. Majid. Ms. Joyce Waddell, your response.
Currently, I'm serving in the Senate, representing Senate 40. I've been very effective in what I've done. I've co-sponsored and sponsored more than 70 bills since I've been there. Upon arriving, I didn't sit around and wait. I moved forward very quickly to get legislation passed. As a first-year senator, which is unusual for first-year senators, I had my bill passed that I sponsored on aggravated assault in the face of a minor. I worked very closely with both parties to get things done and have been very effective in what I've done. I also sponsored and worked very hard for teacher assistants and led the fight to keep them on their jobs, 84,000 teacher assistants, as well as the driver's education program. And I was one of the leaders to make that happen, and it did happen.
All right, thank you. And we have a challenge from your opponent, Mr. Majid.
Well, Jeff, the people of District 40, they don't need smoke and mirrors. I've heard Joyce say these things before about she got legislation passed, but I have the North Carolina State General Assembly website printout, and she did introduce 5 bills, but all of them died in committee. And so we need the truth, we need the truth. These are the facts. This is the printout. So I don't understand, the statements.
All right, thank you. Ms. Waddell, would you like to?
My record speaks for itself, and I have that information also from the website. And this is it. And it speaks. And it speaks for what actually happened, and it's on the website. My bill passed. The 70 bills that I co-sponsored and sponsored with other people, many of them passed. Many of them are in committee if they did not pass. So my record speaks for itself. I hit the ground running. I have a record, and the record is one that I'm running on. I'm effective. My attendance is great. I've been there. Everything that I've done, we've looked at those things that I said I was going to work on. Teacher effectiveness, teacher pay and jobs, programs for women and children, And I've been effective in what I've done.
All right, and I unfortunately have to wrap you up on that. Our next question will go to Mr. Majid. Mr. Majid, you've stated in your campaign literature that you want to play an active role in making communities and the state safer places to raise children, run businesses, and forge a future filled with unlimited promise. How do you propose to do that?
Well, one thing a key linchpin in this whole process is education. I was appointed by Governor Hunt to serve on his North Carolina Commission on Education for Economic Growth. We set policy to train our young people, to get them prepared so we can, when the industry comes in, they can be placed in those industries. We were known as the education state, and now we lost. Our teachers are 42nd in pay. Teachers are going to Virginia and Tennessee and Texas, and we are losing industry, the industrial race to South Carolina. The canary in the coal mine is dying. So I want to go to Raleigh to sound the alarm that we need to take care and show up our economic future, and this is my top priority.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, how can a minority party representative influence a supermajority-controlled legislature? We're looking for a 30-second response. Once again, how can a minority party representative influence a supermajority-controlled legislature? Ms. Waddell, we begin with you.
We do it each and every day. And we do it by collaboration. We do it by working together. All of the bills come out of committees, and committees are composed of majority as well as minority members. And many of the things that we say and do in committees, we negotiate. We make a difference there. It's presenting your ideas, and we're taking some from each party, each person that's being presented, presenting the facts and representing constituent concerns. So out of that committee, ideas come. And so you have both parties involved. And that's how you make the difference.
All right, thank you. Mr. Majid, your response?
Well, there's a majority party there, but I'm a businessman also, and I understand the language. You have to translate into economic aspects and communicate with others for the ideas that are going to affect the economic viability of our state. And this is where I think that I know that I can be very effective. As a matter of fact, recently I got the endorsement of the Southern Piedmont Central Labor Council, and I'm a known businessman to get things done in the community, and that would translate over respect from the delegation and respect from people already in Raleigh. They understand that.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, North Carolina's population is increasing and social needs are growing, but state spending as a part of the state economy is below a 45-year average. How should those needs be addressed? We go back to you, Mr. Majid.
Well, we have to put an emphasis again on education. We have to train our people in order that they can, get the jobs at the corporations we get in here. If we're gonna, invite corporations in here, and right now say we're losing to South Carolina, we got to do a better job of paying our teachers. We have to do a better job of for future teachers, as far as education is concerned, as far as scholarships for future teachers, as far as incentives, the master's incentives, the master's degree incentive, all that was taken out. So in the short term, we might save a little money, but in the long term, we're gonna lose out. Which right now we're losing to South Carolina in the industrial race.
All right, thank you. Again, the question is: North Carolina's population is increasing and social needs are growing, but state spending as a part of the state economy is below a 45-year average. How should those needs be addressed? We go to Joyce Waddell.
We got to take care of our families. Our families are the backbone of our society. Women, children, and those who are living below the poverty level. We got to expand Medicaid as we look at the social programs and the social needs. We have, say, 42,000 people right now that could benefit. They're on the rolls. So we got to expand it and make it available. We got to also look at education and educated society so that we can provide the jobs for those industries that are coming. They want a trained workforce that can do the jobs. We got to do that. We got to also bring small businesses here. Now, we've concentrated on bringing businesses before, but what we know is 4 jobs out of the 5 jobs that came went to other people, not people who were here. So entrepreneurship, providing for grants, and also providing for ways that we can promote our small businesses because they are the heart of this community.
All right, thank you. Our next question, we're looking for a 30-second response. The North Carolina General Assembly has diligently worked to lower taxes and regulations on employers. They claim that employers are job creators, yet employers only hire when the market has consumers. Would you argue that consumers are actually job creators? Ms. Waddell, we begin with you.
Absolutely. Consumers are job creators. And that's why we want to focus on entrepreneurship and small businesses, because the consumers here, they do a lot. They know what it takes in their communities to create jobs and to make those jobs viable for people. And we need to support them and give them the impetus that they need to create jobs. When they lowered taxes, they also looked at the 3-tier system, which we're working on there. And I've been very fortunate to serve on a committee, economic development. And we're working very hard with that 3-tier system because it does not benefit large communities, large counties like Mecklenburg, but provides so much for the smaller, low-wealth counties. So that's something we got to do something about, and we're working on it.
Thank you. Mr. Nazif Majid, your response?
I've done that locally, and I'm proposing to do something on a greater level statewide. I started the business incubator, which generated small businesses to be placed on the West. I was as president of the West Trade Badersford Merchants Association to be distributed on the corridor to help with the economic viability. I'm proposing tax-free enterprise zones for our area because we have a higher unemployment rate in certain areas, and that will be a tax incentive for a break for the industries to come into the area, around the area, and that will also address some of the unemployment problems that we have. I'm a solution-oriented person, and that has worked locally, and I think we should do that more of that on the state level.
All right. Our next question, again, we're looking for a 30-second response. North Carolina hit a 5-year high in teacher turnover this year, and enrollment in colleges of education has significantly declined. What would you propose to reverse this trend? Mr. Nazif Majid, we go to you for your response first.
We need to go back to the scholarship programs that we had. We also need the incentives associated with the master's program for teachers, where they can increase their pay. This is a way of holding them in. As I say, when I served with Governor Hunt on this Commission on Education for Economic Growth, setting policy for the state, we were known as the education state. We are far away from that now. And as I say, the canary in the coal mine is dying. And if we are losing the battle, the economic battle for South Carolina, we are losing teachers, and we better straighten up and get North Carolina back on the track again.
Thank you. Ms. Joyce Waddell, your response?
Right now, a beginning teacher makes $35,000. That's what the state pays. So we got to get our local communities involved, our local counties involved with a supplement to make that viable and to attract the brightest and the best. We also have got to put in the Teachers Fellows Program, which we had in before. We need to grow our own and start training not when they're in college, but before they get to college, so that they know what teaching is about and so that we are continuing to keep the very best in our classrooms.
Thank you. Again, we're looking for a 30-second response. We'll go back to you, Joyce Waddell, for this next question. Charter schools operate with tax money, as do the public schools, but are not subject to the same standards of accountability and transparency. Does that need to change?
Absolutely needs to change, and we've been fighting that as a member of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education, which I've served for 4 years and was elected to a second term. I saw the things that charter schools did when we had to pay money from our budget for their operations for their teachers. It makes a difference. The same line and the same standards should exist. There should not be exemptions when it comes to the size of classrooms, when it comes to lunches, when it comes to transportations, and those essentials that are necessary, please remember that charter schools are also public schools, but they're just operated by a separate board. We got to all be doing the same thing because.
Okay, I need to cut you off. I'm sorry. Mr. Nazif Majid, your response?
Charter schools are growing, but it's a problem for the public schools because they are draining the resources of the public schools. We need to. It's unfortunately it's moving, but we have to. It's going to be a problem because, and not but as it relates to the transparency, they need to come under the same guidelines, transparency, as the public schools, and that's something that should be put into effect immediately.
All right, thank you. Again, we're looking for a 30-second response on the next question. Do you support the system of grading schools on test performance without the state taking steps to address the problems of failing schools? Explain. And how should the state address failing schools? Mr. Nazif Majid, we go back to you.
This is a sticky wicket. We need testing standards. But it goes back to saying that a lot of the tests are biased, and certain ethnic groups do well on the test, and certain ethnic groups don't do well on the test based on the composition of the test. We need some testing mechanism. I think we need a different criteria, a combination of observations with the teacher and the interaction, and some substantive grading methods that would be like a combination of factors that would address this issue.
Okay, and again, the question is, do you support the system of grading schools on test performance without the state taking steps to address the problems of failing schools? Explain, and how should the state address failing schools? Joyce Waddell?
I do not agree with the current system of grading that the state uses, A, B, C, F schools. That's unacceptable. It's a stigma on the school. It's a stigma on the people who are doing hard work each and every day to make schools great. What we need to do is provide the resources necessary for each and every school to be successful. When we grade a school, what it says to the public, what it says to the community, this is not a good school. We need to look at growth and how much growth is being done by each and every school and each and every student as they move forward. There is no place for taking a test and grading a school according to the test that's taken.
All right.
I've worked on that in the General Assembly and spoke highly out against it and will continue to do so.
All right, thank you. Again, our next question, 30-second response. North Carolina has different standards for drinking water from wells and for public water systems, with different departments issuing regulations. How should this safety issue be resolved before we become another Flint, Michigan?
Oh, my God.
Nazif Majid, we begin with you.
I think on the state level, we need a standardized system that overrides even the counties and applies to all systems and water systems. I know we've had problems with drinking water in Mountain Island, and we have other counties that have other standards. But we need one standard that applies to the whole state, and I think that would be appropriate too.
All right, thank you. Joyce Waddell, your response?
You know, we talk about clean air and clean water. We have to make sure that those resources are clean and that they're working well for our communities and for the people of North Carolina. We have to do testing periodically and often, and testing the source of water that we're drinking. We got to look at those chemicals that are being put in our streams and make sure that they are not contaminating. Because what we have is a lot of industries who are dumping chemicals into the water supply system. And as a result, many of our citizens don't know that they're there. And it's just contaminating our health. It's contaminating the sources of water that we drink. We work with this on the General Assembly, and we've fought clearly against contamination and about dumping waste into systems where water has to be drinking by our citizens.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for our 30-second closing statements, and we will begin with Nazif Majid.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. There's a Christian song that says, "Let the work I've done speak for me." Well, I have numerous works that speak loudly in the Charlotte communities and businesses. District 40 needs an effective leader that will speak up, fight, and advocate for the people. These are serious times, and we need serious leadership. I fought for you as a decorated combat pilot in Vietnam, and let me fight for you in Raleigh. Let's get North Carolina back on track again. Vote for Majid for North Carolina Senate District 40.
Thank you, Mr. Majid. Ms. Joyce Waddell, your response?
I'm Senator Joyce Waddell, and I currently serve as your senator. I've been effective. I've gotten the job done. I've been here. I have not left you. And I've worked in this community for more than 30 years. I serve you and serve you well on the Charlotte-Meck Board of Education. I've served you well in this community and will continue to do so. In Raleigh, I've filed and co-sponsored with other colleagues more than 70 bills. And what I've done have been very effective, very respectful, and very effective in Raleigh. I want to continue to be there, to do the work that you've sent me there to do. Joyce Waddell, I'm your senator. I'm the one that you sent there. And I've responded to you and will continue to work hard for you in the General Assembly.
Thank you. The winner for the Democratic primary for State Senate District 40 will face Republican Marguerite Cook in the November general election. Again, we want to say thanks to each of the candidates in the North Carolina State Senate District 40 race for taking part in this debate. For information about the League of Women Voters, you can check out their website at www.goleaguego.org. We want to remind you that early voting begins on March 3rd, and the primary will be held Tuesday, March 15th. That's a little bit earlier this year. Please remember to vote. It's so important. Thanks for watching.